Millionaire sees his childhood love begging on the street with her 2 3-year-old twin children and recognizes her, but his next actions are simply unbelievable. Logan Bennett, a ruthless millionaire, was walking along a crowded street corner when something caught his attention. A woman in filthy clothes, with disheveled hair, sitting on the sidewalk. Her face was tired and etched with pain. Beside her were 2 twin girls, about 4 years old, dressed in tattered clothes. One of them was silently crying, rubbing her eyes with her small, dirty hands. "Sweetheart, it's all right. Someone will help us soon," the woman whispered, stroking the child's hair in a trembling voice filled with desperate love. Logan felt a sharp pain in his chest. He recognized that face, even though it was dirty and marred by suffering. It couldn't be, but it was. It was Olivia Carter, his youthful love. The girl he had admired from afar, though she had never really noticed him, except to mock his clumsy attempts to attract her attention. And now she was here, vulnerable and helpless. Logan slowly moved closer, his heart pounding erratically. "Olivia," he hesitated to call. The woman slowly lifted her head. Her eyes widened as she recognized the voice. "Logan." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them grew heavy with painful memories. Then Olivia lowered her eyes as if wanting to disappear. "What happened to you?" he asked, unable to hide the worry in his voice. Olivia looked away, holding her 2 daughters even closer. "I'm fine, we're all right. Go on, Logan." But Logan could not ignore what he saw. One of the girls was crying out of hunger, while the other clung tightly to her mother's arm. The little girl looked up at him with wide eyes, frightened, innocent, and desperate. The scene struck him like a painful blow. "You're not all right. Come with me. I will help. I won't leave you and your daughters here in this cold. We'll go, and I will not accept a no for an answer." The girls looked at him curiously, yet cautiously. The woman bit her lip, trying hard to hold back tears. Olivia hesitated, but Logan's determined gaze made her relent. She knew she had no other choice. The car silently glided along the road beneath the soft yellow city lights, passing through cold yet bustling streets. Logan sat in the front seat, his arm wrapped around one of the 2 girls who had fallen asleep from exhaustion. The little girl nestled into his embrace as if, for the first time in her life, she felt warmth and safety. Olivia sat in the back, clutching the other child close to her, her eyes vacant as she gazed out through the foggy window, her mind seemingly drifting elsewhere. She said nothing. No crying, no words of thanks. She was as silent as someone who had lost the ability to believe in any goodness. Occasionally, Logan glanced in the rearview mirror, his eyes lingering on Olivia. He could not take his eyes off her, even though she looked completely different from the radiant girl he once knew. But she was still Olivia Carter. And now, he had only one question. "What happened to you?" When the car turned onto the private road leading to the Bennett mansion, Olivia tightened her hold on her daughter's hand. She turned her face toward the window on the opposite side, avoiding every gaze. The mansion emerged in the gentle yellow light, exuding warmth and luxury, as if it belonged to another world, a world from which she had long been excluded. The car stopped in front of the main hall. The driver stepped out and opened the door. Logan was the first to exit, gently cradling the sleeping girl in his arms, then turning to open the door for Olivia. Olivia hesitated. She did not want to step inside. Every stone tile, every step, reminded her that she did not belong here. But then her eyes fell on the face of little Hazel, sleeping soundly in someone's arms. The child's lips parted slightly as she breathed, peaceful as an angel. That was why she couldn't turn away. "Let's go," Logan said, his voice not urgent, yet leaving no room for refusal. Olivia stepped out of the car, still holding Hazel in her arms. She did not look up at the mansion. She simply followed Logan silently. The front door opened. Mrs. Harper, the longtime loyal housekeeper of Logan, appeared with a look of mild surprise. She looked at Olivia, then at the 2 children in their arms, but she did not ask anything. She merely bowed her head slightly and gently said, "Hello, Miss Carter. Please, come in." Logan nodded in agreement. "Prepare a living room for Olivia and the 2 girls. Hot food should be served immediately." "Yes, sir," Mrs. Harper replied without even a trace of judgment in her eyes. The mansion was quiet, with only the sound of footsteps echoing on the wooden floors. Olivia lowered her head as she followed Logan down the long corridor to the main living room. The fireplace had already been lit. The reddish-orange flames reflected on the dark wooden walls, spreading a warmth that Olivia thought she would never feel again. She sat on the sofa, still holding Hazel in her arms. Harper sat beside her, nestling in like a mother. Logan stood near the fireplace, silently watching them. Inside, he felt a strange mix of pain and protectiveness. The once vibrant Olivia, who had once been the shining smile in the schoolyard, now appeared as a mere shadow, fragile, silent, and so worn that she no longer had tears to cry. The meal was served: hot soup, toast, and fruit juice for the children. But Olivia ate nothing. She simply sat there, her eyes brimming with tears, softly whispering, "Thank you, Logan. Truly thank you." Logan did not respond. He only nodded slightly. That night, when the two girls had fallen soundly asleep in the well-prepared room, Olivia sat alone in a wooden chair by the window. The moonlight illuminated her gaunt face. Logan stood at a distance in the hallway, peering through a slightly ajar door. He did not sleep. In his mind, thousands of questions raced. Why did it come to this? She was once full of energy, radiant. And now, at the far end of the mansion, Logan entered his office. He sat in his chair, turned on the desk lamp, but did not power on his computer. Instead, he stared intently at an old photograph, the one taken at his high school graduation. There, Olivia stood in the midst of her friends, radiant, and he, standing quietly in the back, with a secretive gaze fixed upon her. Now things were different. She was here, in his own home, but she was no longer the Olivia of the past. The next morning, soft sunlight crept through the window of Olivia's room. She had been awake for a long time. Sitting at the edge of the bed, she looked at her two daughters, Harper and Hazel, still sleeping soundly. Their faces were gentle, their lips curved in slight smiles as they dreamed. For the first time in many months, they slept in warm blankets and on soft pillows, not curled up on a sidewalk or in a cold corner of a park. She should have felt relieved, but instead her throat tightened with bitterness, like a knot she couldn't untie. A gentle knock sounded at the door. "Ms. Carter, breakfast is ready. Mr. Bennett would like to invite you and the girls downstairs for a meal." "Thank you, ma'am," Olivia replied softly, then turned to gently rouse the two girls. Breakfast was served in a large dining room. Fresh fruits, toast, eggs, and milk, more than Olivia had seen in many months. Harper and Hazel were immediately drawn to the table, happily choosing their portions. Olivia lingered at the doorway. "Please sit down," Logan's voice called from the far side of the table. He wore a white shirt and light khaki pants, looking comfortable, yet his eyes were filled with seriousness. "Thank you," she said, pulling out a chair and sitting down. Throughout the meal, a silence hung between the two adults. Only the cheerful laughter and the clinking of spoons against plates from the two girls could be heard. Logan looked at Olivia several times, wanting to ask, wanting to know, but he was afraid of hurting her. After the girls finished eating, Mrs. Harper took them out to play in the garden. Only Logan and Olivia remained seated. "Olivia," he said, leaning his elbows on the table and looking straight into her eyes, "we need to talk." "You want to know what happened to me, don't you?" Olivia said, her gaze dropping to her lap, her hands clasped tightly together. "Yes, but not to judge. I just want to understand." She took a deep breath. Then in silence for a moment, she slowly began. "After we graduated high school, I started dating Jake Miller. Do you remember him?" Logan tightened his jaw. He remembered, very clearly. Jake, the famous, charming young man, admired by many, yet also someone who did not hesitate to hurt others to achieve his goals. We met right after the prom. I think I fell in love, and I believe that he did too. But a few months later, I discovered I was pregnant. Olivia's voice trailed off. I thought we would face it together. But when I told him, he coldly said that he wasn't ready to be a father. He left, and that was the last time I saw him. Logan clenched his fists on the table. His whole body trembled with anger. He abandoned you, Olivia nodded, tears streaming down her face. I raised the 2 children on my own. No one helped me. My family wouldn't accept me. I lost my job after giving birth because I couldn't return to work immediately. Bills piled up. When Harper and Hazel turned 2, we were evicted from our apartment. From then on, I lived on the streets, relying on the kindness of strangers. Logan fell silent. The woman he had once secretly loved, the one who had been strong and radiant, had now been crushed by life in the most ruthless way. Yet she was still sitting there, still Olivia, still fighting for her 2 children. Why didn't you ask anyone for help? Because I was ashamed, she said, her voice hoarse. I didn't want anyone to see me like this, especially you. Logan felt as though his heart was breaking. He took a deep breath, his eyes softening. Olivia, you are no longer alone. I will help you. I will help both you and your children. Why are you doing all this? Olivia asked, almost in a whisper. Logan hesitated for a moment. Then he said, because I still care about you. Olivia, I've never stopped caring. At dawn, the light touched the Bennett mansion. But today for Olivia, that light carried a different feeling, both unfamiliar and warm. The 2 daughters were still soundly asleep, their peaceful faces resting on soft pillows, with a blanket draped over their chests, gently moving with each breath. She stood up and walked to the window. The sunlight streamed through the curtain, bathing the room in a gentle, pale yellow hue. How long had it been since she could start a day without worrying about what to eat or where to sleep? She took a deep breath, yet the lump in her throat remained, not from deprivation, but because she had never imagined she would be standing here, in a place like this, being cared for and protected, after those years of sheer exhaustion on the streets. When she descended the stairs, Logan was sitting in the living room, holding a cup of coffee and a stack of documents. He looked up when he heard her footsteps, smiling gently. Good morning. Good morning, she replied softly. Thank you for everything. He nodded. Did you sleep well? Much better. She hesitated. Thank you for letting me and my children stay here. Olivia, Logan said as he set his coffee cup down on the table, his eyes taking on a serious look. You don't need to thank me every day. You don't owe me anything. Olivia lowered her gaze, her hands clenching lightly. But Logan didn't stop there. I've thought a lot, he continued slowly. Now that the girls are doing better, I think you should start thinking about yourself as well. What do you mean? She asked. You were once so smart, Olivia, full of passion and determination. You shouldn't just exist, you deserve to live again. She looked at him confused. I want to help you get back to school. Enroll in the courses you desire. Pursue what you once dreamed of. Entrepreneurship, working, whatever it is. Those words left Olivia speechless. Her heart pounded wildly, not from hope, but from fear. Logan, I can't. I'm not the girl I used to be. I've fallen too far. You can, Logan said firmly. I believe that. And if you need a support to start over, I'm here. Olivia bit her lip. She looked out into the garden, where Harper and Hazel were playing with Mrs. Harper, frolicking with butterflies that had just alighted on the flower shrub. For the children, she whispered. I will try. Logan smiled. That's enough. In the following days, Logan quietly arranged everything. He hired a professional babysitter to ensure that Harper and Hazel were always looked after, cared for, and entertained while their mother was away. He paid the entire tuition for Olivia. He carefully selected entrepreneurship and business skills courses suited to her current level and circumstances, from basic to advanced, all designed in a practical, hands-on format. At first, Olivia attended classes with hesitation. She was the oldest in the group, the only one studying after having 2 children. She felt out of place among the young, dynamic students discussing dreams and the future. A sense of inferiority enveloped her every day. She wondered if she was capable enough to keep up, if she was even worth all that Logan was investing in her. But then, day by day, she began to change. New knowledge awakened her. Lectures and group discussions stirred a part of her that she thought had long been dead. the part that craved learning, that burned with passion, that was strong and full of belief. Every morning she woke up with anticipation, no longer with anxiety but with eagerness. She took diligent notes, completed her assignments, and even helped her classmates when she could. Every night she held Harper and Hazel as they slept soundly, recounting to them what she had learned that day. Once Hazel whispered in her sleep, "Mommy learns best." Those words were like an invisible embrace from fate itself, soothing the deepest wounds in Olivia's heart. A few weeks later, Logan invited her into his office. He handed her a folder of documents. "This is a contract," he said. "I want you to become a project assistant for a new branch of the company. It's only a temporary position, but flexible enough for you to work and study at the same time." Olivia was stunned. "Logan, I'm not ready. I don't have any experience." "You have more than you think," Logan smiled. "I've observed you. You work hard, learn quickly, and are well organized. What I need is integrity, responsibility, and a willingness to learn, all of which you have." She looked at the contract, her hands trembling. I'm afraid I'll make mistakes. I will guide you every step of the way. And you're not alone." Olivia took a deep breath. "All right, I'll try." On her first day at work, Olivia stepped into the Bennett Enterprises headquarters with mixed feelings. She dressed neatly, her hair tied back, clutching a notebook. The employees watched her with curious eyes, but Logan had introduced her as someone he trusted. They didn't judge or criticize. Instead, they helped her warmly. The work wasn't easy. She had to learn how to schedule meetings, track progress, update data, take minutes, and analyze costs. Initially, every day was a challenge, but she did not give up. And little by little, Olivia began to see a change in herself. At the end of each working day, she returned home, embraced Harper and Hazel, and told them about Mommy's office, about the kind colleagues, about the new things she managed to accomplish. The girls listened, their eyes shining with pride. Logan watched from a distance, a smile lighting up his face. He knew he had been right. She didn't need anyone to rescue her. She only needed an opportunity, and she would move forward on her own. And then, one afternoon, as Olivia was presenting her first financial analysis during a team meeting, she did it. No one helped her. No one completed it for her. It was solely her achievement, using what she had learned, remembered, and confidently applied. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Logan looked at her, his eyes sparkling. "Wonderful suggestion, Olivia. We'll implement it immediately." Her heart pounded fiercely. She smiled, not because of the praise, but because she felt that she had truly come back to life. That afternoon, the sky was overcast and the air felt thick and heavy, weighing on Logan's mind as he entered his office with a thick folder of files in hand. Since the moment he had seen Olivia and her two daughters huddled on the sidewalk that day, that image had never left him. Unspoken questions echoed relentlessly, making it impossible for him to sit still. He needed to understand, not just out of compassion or guilt from the past, but because of a deeper drive. He needed to know who had shattered a strong woman like Olivia so completely, and he found the name, Jake Miller, a name too familiar, and a past that was far from beautiful. Without warning, Logan decided to meet Jake. Jake lived in a rundown apartment complex on the edge of the city. When Logan knocked on the door, a disheveled man with a haggard appearance, his eyes cold and tired, stepped out. "You are?" Jake asked, frowning. "Logan Bennett. I came to talk about Olivia Carter." At the mention of her name, Jake raised his eyebrows, yet he didn't seem surprised. He nodded absently and invited Logan inside. The apartment was cluttered, with the lingering scent of cigarette smoke and alcohol. Logan sat down on a chair, unable to hide his discomfort. "She was once my girlfriend," Jake began, pouring himself a glass of liquor. "But that was over a long time ago. She got pregnant with your child," Logan stated bluntly. "And you abandoned her." Jake shrugged. "I was never ready to be a father. I was too young, had so many things I wanted to do." "Do you know how she lived after that?" Logan asked in a low voice. "No, and honestly, I don't want to know," Jake replied coldly. "She chose to keep the child. I didn't force her." Logan clenched his fists. Every answer felt like a dull, cold, indifferent stab. Yet, at the same time, they confirmed all the painful truths Olivia had endured. It was all true. Jake not only abandoned her, He had never even regarded the children as his own. Logan stood up, his eyes sharp. "Thank you for confirming what I needed to know. But from now on, you have nothing to do with Olivia or the girls." Jake smirked. "I never wanted that anyway." That evening, Logan returned to the mansion. Olivia was in the study, adjusting some reports. When she saw him enter with a heavy expression, she froze. "What's wrong?" she asked. Logan did not answer immediately. He sat down across from her, and after a long pause, he said, "I met Jake." Olivia was stunned. Her heart pounded loudly. "What did you do?" "I needed to know," Logan said, his tone softening. "I needed to understand what truly happened to you. I can't keep pretending that it never existed." She said nothing, just clenched her hands tightly. "I have confirmed everything," Logan continued. "He knew you were pregnant, and he chose to disappear. He didn't want to take responsibility, not a word of regret. He didn't even ask about Harper or Hazel." Olivia felt as if a heavy stone was pressing on her chest. Yet strangely, she didn't burst into tears. She no longer felt the pain as before. She only felt liberated. For years, deep within her heart, she had longed for an apology, for a shred of remorse. But now, knowing full well that he didn't care, she no longer needed to expect anything. "Thank you, Logan," she said softly, "for telling me." Then she stood up and stepped out onto the balcony. It was dark, and the city lights flickered like distant memories. She pulled out her phone. Her heart no longer trembled. Her hand was steady. After a few rings, Jake answered. "This is Olivia," she said. There was a brief silence. What is it?" he asked. "We need to finish what's left unsaid," Jake sighed. "I thought you already understood. I never—" "Silence," Olivia interrupted, her voice calm yet resolute. "I'm not calling to scold you. I'm calling to say my final goodbye." She took a deep breath. "I've moved on, and I won't look back. You should do the same. You no longer have a place in my children's lives." Jake offered no response. There was only a long, lingering pause. Olivia looked up at the sky, where distant stars twinkled. "They don't need you. They already have someone who loves them, as a true parent, and I no longer need an apology." Then she hung up, not in pain, not crying, just completely liberated. When she returned to the living room, Logan was waiting. "You already called," she said. He nodded. "Are you all right?" She smiled softly. "For the first time in many years, I am truly okay." Life in the Logan villa passes like those rare peaceful days in Olivia's life. Harper and Hazel have gradually grown accustomed to stability, to care, and to simple things like a hot meal, laughter in the garden, and peaceful sleeps in a sunlit room. Olivia, although still cautious, feels a little more relieved with each passing day. Logan, as always, silently accompanies her, without pressure, without urgency. He gives her time, gives her quiet, and most importantly, an atmosphere of trust that asks for nothing in return. But sometimes, just a small ripple is enough to disturb the calm surface. One gloomy afternoon, while Olivia was working in her private room, her phone rang. An unknown number sent a message accompanied by an image. She opened the message. "Do you really know who he is?" Below was a picture. Logan sitting with an elegantly dressed woman at a restaurant. The two were talking, seemingly intimate. She was smiling. Logan was tilting his head, as if listening intently. Olivia's hand clenched the phone. The first feeling was not anger. It was fear. Fear that her heart, which had just begun to kindle with trust, would be hurt once again. Fear that she, like every time before, would trust the wrong person. Fear that Logan was just like Jake, only wearing a different facade. That entire evening, Olivia could no longer focus on anything. She tried to appear normal in front of her two children, but the vacant look in her eyes and the tension evident in every gesture told otherwise. Logan came home later than usual. When he stepped in, carrying the chill of early winter, he saw Olivia sitting in the living room with the two kids playing nearby. "Hi," he said with the same smile as every day. "Hi," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. Logan sensed that something was off. He sat down and looked at her intently. "Is something wrong?" Olivia hesitated for a moment. Then she handed him the phone to show him the message. Logan took it, his eyes lingering a bit longer on the caption and the picture. A few seconds of silence passed. She is the business consultant I was considering inviting for a new project, he explained. That meeting was entirely work-related. Olivia did not answer immediately. She looked at him, trying to find a sign, a crack in his gaze or in his words, but saw nothing but calm and transparency. Do you know who sent it? She asked. Logan nodded. It was a former employee. I fired him a few months ago for making procedural mistakes and not cooperating. He still seems bitter. He showed her several email exchanges between him and the Human Resources Department, confirming that person's identity, along with the dates, reasons for leaving, and internal records. Little by little, the logical pieces were put together, without beating around the bush or evading. Olivia felt an internal undercurrent slowly receding. She placed the phone on the table and silently looked at Logan. After a while, she softly said, "I'm sorry." Logan smiled and shook his head. "I don't blame you. Trusting someone, especially after all you've been through, is not easy." Olivia bowed her head. Her eyes were red and puffy. "I didn't want to doubt you, but when I received that message, I felt like I was back to that old feeling. The feeling of being deceived." "I understand," Logan said, "and I want you to know, you don't need to apologize for being afraid. I'm here to help you relearn how to trust. Gradually, not all at once." She looked at him. His eyes held no reproach. There was only understanding, deep and complete. And it was precisely that calm demeanor that made Olivia, for the first time, truly open her heart. That night, as she tucked her children in, Olivia lingered by the bedside a little longer. She bent down to gently kiss each of their foreheads, then stood silently in the darkness for a long while. She thought about everything that had happened. Jake, the man who once made her lose trust. The years of wandering without a home, without hope. The freezing mornings when she didn't know what her children would eat tomorrow. The wounds that never fully healed. And then Logan, the one who never said too much, yet was always there at the right time. The one who didn't offer empty promises, but gave her a genuine sense of security. She understood. Love does not come from perfection. It comes from times when, despite being tested, one chooses to stay. That night, the Logan villa was quieter than ever. Olivia had just put Harper and Hazel to bed, tucking them in with blankets, those innocent eyes closed in a peace she once thought she could never bring to her children. As she stepped out of the room, she was surprised to see that the light on the rooftop terrace was still on. Her heart skipped a beat. Logan was standing there, under the gentle glow of the soft yellow light, and a night sky sprinkled with faint stars. He turned when he heard her footsteps, offering a soft, deep smile. "Do you have a minute?" he asked. Olivia nodded and gently stepped beside him. The terrace was the same as always, the place where they had their first conversation about feelings, about second chances. But tonight, the atmosphere seemed different. Something was waiting. Logan turned, his eyes unable to hide his emotion. "Olivia, ever since the moment I saw you and the children on the sidewalk, my life changed. At first it was worry, then responsibility, then admiration, and after that, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box." Olivia brought her hand to her mouth, her eyes beginning to mist with overwhelming emotion. It became love. He knelt down, opening the box. The ring, simple yet exquisite, shone under the moonlight. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and with those two little angels. You and the kids have given me something I never knew I was missing. A real home. Olivia, will you marry me?" In that moment, everything seemed to freeze. Olivia felt a warm surge welling up in her chest. She nodded, tears streaming uncontrollably. "Yes, yes, I agree." Logan stood up, gently slipped the ring onto her finger, then embraced her tightly. The gentle night breeze brushed past their shoulders, as if witnessing a new beginning, not flashy, but sincere and full of love. After the proposal, everything seemed to become clearer for Olivia. She began preparing with Logan for a small, intimate wedding, where Harper and Hazel would be the little bridesmaids, where her family, now not just a parent and children, would officially take shape. But before everything began, Olivia knew she needed to do one thing. She had to meet Jake one last time, not out of regret, not to seek an explanation or to cling to anything, but to close the chapter. One afternoon, while Logan was playing with the two children in the garden, Olivia approached, her eyes full of determination. "Logan, I need to meet Jake. Just once. I want to speak to him directly, with no unfinished business before starting a new chapter." Logan looked at her, unsurprised. "I understand. Do you want me to come with you?" Olivia shook her head. "I want to do this on my own. I'm always here if you need me." She nodded gratefully. Jake lived in an old apartment on a noisy, cluttered street corner much like his own life. When Olivia knocked on the door, Jake opened it with a startled expression. Not out of joy, but because he hadn't expected her to come back. "Olivia," he asked softly, stepping back. "We need to talk," she stated firmly as she stepped into the room. Jake closed the door. The space inside fell into an unusual silence. "Why did you come to see me?" his tired voice asked. Olivia sat down in a chair, her expression calm yet resolute. "This will be the last time I come to see you. Not to rekindle anything, but to put an end to it." Jake said nothing. Olivia continued. "I once hoped that one day you would show up, apologize, or even just ask after the kids. But now I understand that will never happen, and I no longer wish for it." She took a deep breath. "My children now have a real father. Not the one who gave birth to them, but the one who loves them with all his heart. Logan is that man." Jake bowed his head, offering no rebuttal, no words. Olivia looked straight at him. "You no longer have a place in our lives, and I'm here only to say my final goodbye." A long silence ensued. Jake nodded slightly, his eyes looking lost. "Take care," he said in a hoarse voice. Olivia stood up. "I am living well, and I will live even better." Then she walked out of the room, closing the door behind her, without looking back. When she returned to the villa, Logan was sitting on the porch with the two kids doodling wildly on a carpet. He looked up as he saw Olivia step into the yard. She went over, sat beside him, and rested her head lightly on his shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. Logan squeezed her hand. "From now on, there is only the future," she added, her eyes turning to the two children proudly showing off their little colorful drawings. And in the gentle glow of the sunset spreading across the garden, Olivia knew she had truly closed the past, ready to embrace everything that lay ahead. That morning, gentle sunlight spread across the Bennett villa's garden. The air was fresh and peaceful, intermingled with a special liveliness. The villa was lit from early on, with every room hinting at the preparations for an incredibly meaningful event. Today was the day Logan and Olivia were to be married. Step by step, Olivia descended the stairs in her pristine white wedding dress, her heart filled with emotion. The dress was simple, yet elegant, softly embracing the slender figure of a woman who had weathered many storms. Her face radiated with joy, tinged with a hint of nervousness, but her eyes sparkled with sincere happiness. Harper and Hazel wore white floral dresses, with small flower crowns in their hair and holding baskets of petals in their hands, innocent and pure like two little angels. "Am I pretty, Mom?" Hazel asked, looking up at her mother. "You are the most beautiful bridesmaid in the world," Olivia replied with a smile, embracing both little ones tightly. In her eyes was an immeasurable love, the sum of countless sacrifices and the long journey she had taken just to arrive at this moment. The ceremony took place in the garden behind the villa, where Logan had meticulously prepared every detail together with the children. Only the closest relatives and friends were present, not too many, but filled with warmth. As Olivia walked along the path lined with 2 rows of flowers, Logan stood waiting at the end of the aisle, his eyes shining brightly upon seeing her. In the dazzling afternoon sunlight, soft, melodious music played. Harper and Hazel scattered small petals ahead of them, their faces full of excitement. Olivia and Logan held hands, their eyes meeting in silence, communicating more than any words could express. "I will always be here for you and the children," Logan whispered. "I know," Olivia replied softly, her hand trembling in his. Yet it was the trembling of a heart beginning to open to love. The vows were read, petals danced in the gentle breeze, and when they exchanged a kiss, the entire space fell silent. It was a pure moment of love, witnessed by the very children who had walked with them through the darkness. Not long after the wedding, Olivia began to feel changes in her body. She experienced dizziness in the mornings and frequent fatigue, and very soon she realized she was pregnant. The good news was announced on a quiet afternoon when Logan was playing with Harper and Hazel. Olivia called him inside, her hand trembling as she held the pregnancy test result. Logan looked at her, sensing something serious. "Are you okay?" Olivia smiled, her eyes slightly moist. "Logan, I'm pregnant." He fell silent for a few seconds. Then, as if overwhelmed, he pulled her into his arms. "Really?" "Truly." Olivia nodded, a radiant smile on her lips. "We're going to have a new member." Logan held her tight, his hand trembling with emotion. "Oh my God, thank you." When Harper and Hazel heard the news, they jumped up with joy. "We're going to have a baby," Harper shouted excitedly. "I'm going to be a big sister." The whole family burst into laughter. The following days were filled with eager anticipation as they prepared for the arrival of the little angel. Logan took care of Olivia in every little way. He rearranged his work schedule to spend more time at home. He frequently cooked and, together with the children, decorated a small room for the baby. Harper and Hazel were just as enthusiastic. Every day, the two of them would tug at their mom's hand to go shopping for baby items, from tiny hats, woolen socks, to soft crib pillows. "The baby will love this, Mom," Hazel cheered when she picked out a plush bunny. Olivia looked at her children, her heart melting with love. Day by day, her belly grew larger, carrying an ever more evident happiness. She continued her studies and maintained her job as an assistant at Logan's company. But now she felt stronger than ever. No longer was she the woman who once despaired, sitting on a cold sidewalk. She was a mother, a wife, and soon, the mother of 3 children. The day of delivery came sooner than expected. One late night, as Olivia was sitting in the living room, gently rubbing her belly, she suddenly felt excruciating pain. Logan immediately rushed her to the hospital. Along the way, he held her hand tightly and whispered, "It will be all right. I'm here." Harper and Hazel stayed at home with the housekeeper, eagerly waiting. In the delivery room, amidst heavy breathing, the beeping of monitors, and then the first cry of a tiny new life. "It's a boy," the doctor announced with a smile. Logan choked up. When he was handed the little baby, he couldn't hold back his tears. The tiny infant, with little hands clenched as if trying to hold on to the world, brought a sting to his eyes as he looked at that delicate face. He leaned down and whispered softly, "Welcome to the family." That day, the Bennett villa shone with brilliance, not because of a noisy celebration, but due to the spreading happiness. Olivia was brought home a few days later. Harper and Hazel ran to embrace their mom and admired their little brother with awe. "What did you name him, Mom?" Harper asked. Olivia looked at Logan, then smiled as she replied, "Eli, because that name means the light of God." Logan held her hand, saying nothing, yet his eyes were filled with affection. In that home, there was now a complete family, not because it was perfect, but because they had chosen forgiveness, love, and to journey together through all the wounds and hardships. Olivia had once thought she would live her whole life in darkness, but now, as she cradled her little son, watching her 2 daughters play happily in the garden, and with Logan, the one who never once left, standing there waiting for her with a gentle smile, she knew that, at last, she had found her home. There are stories that do not need to be overly dramatic, that do not require tragedy or miracles, yet still leave us in awe long after we have heard them. The story of Logan and Olivia is one such tale. An imperfect story, yet real enough. A journey that was not easy, but strangely complete. Olivia had once stood at the very edge of despair, a young woman with 2 little children and nowhere to turn, who once believed that the world had no place for her. But at that very moment, she was seen. She was called by name, and she was trusted. Logan was not the one who came to rescue her. He came to walk alongside her, without questioning the past, without demanding explanations, just silently being there, long enough and deeply enough to let Olivia believe that she could start again. This story teaches us something that might seem simple, yet is the hardest thing to do, that each of us can begin anew if there is someone who truly believes we are worthy. Love is not a reward for those who are perfect. It is a reward for those who dare to forgive oneself and others. It is a gift for hearts that never give up, no matter how many times they have been broken. And family, which one might think can only be built from blood, turns out to be formed from patience, tolerance, and unconditional love. Logan chose to be the father of children who did not even share his surname. Olivia chose to trust a man at a time when she could no longer believe in herself. And all of these choices created a home, not needing to be perfect, but full of human warmth. If you have ever been hurt, if you have ever carried the burden of past mistakes, if you have ever wondered whether you deserve to be loved again, then this story is for you. You do not need to be perfect to start over. You only need to have the courage to believe that. There are still people who will not leave you when you are weak. There are still places where you can return, not because of what you have done, but simply because you are who you are. And perhaps, if just one person believes in you at the right time, it is enough to change your entire life. One final question for you, the one who has journeyed with us to the end. In your life, has there ever been someone who believed in you when you no longer believed in yourself? And if not, are you willing to be that person for someone else? Please share your answer in the comments. We are listening, and we always cherish those empathetic hearts.